In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Gather close, forgotten souls of the Underhive. Press near the flickering lumen glow. Its sweet light, the only ward against the pressing void tonight. I am Alex the Shadow that speaks. And tonight I bring you the tale of a galaxy that has forgotten hope. This is Warhammer 40,000, not a game of heroes and villains, no shining saviors, no happy ending, just endless war across a million worlds, where every soul is fuel for the fire. Humanity clings to life on a rotting empire of a million worlds, ruled from the golden throne by a corpse god, the Emperor of Mankind, whose broken body has sat in agony for 10,000 years. His will keeps the Astronomicon burning, a psychic beacon that lights the way through the hellish warp. But the galaxy is broken. A colossal wound called the Great Rift, the Cicatrice Maledictum, has torn the Imperium in half. Half the galaxy still sees the Emperor's light, the other half drowns in darkness, isolated, overrun by horrors. Chaos demons pour from the warp. Ancient machines awaken to reclaim their empire. Green-skinned orcs crash in endless wags. Insectoid tyranids devour entire sectors. Xenos empires scheme, and within humanity's own ranks, faith has become fanaticism, bureaucracy a cancer, and loyalty a blade turned inward. There are no good guys here. The Imperium is xenophobic, oppressive, burning worlds to save them. The Xenos want humanity dead or enslaved. Chaos wants to corrupt everything into madness. Even the noble factions are monsters in their own way. And yet, humanity endures, because extinction is the only alternative. This is the current state, the Era Indomitus, the age of the Dark Imperium, the 42nd millennium, and the galaxy is hanging by a thread. But how did it come to this? How did the greatest empire mankind ever built fall so far? That is the story we will tell tonight, from the dawn of time to the end of everything. Stay close, listeners. The Shadow will guide you through the timeline, the factions, the auras, the faint glimmers of hope that might yet be snuffed out. In the Emperor's name, or perhaps in spite of it. Let us begin. The year is sometime in the early 42nd millennium. Time itself is fractured by the warp. The exact dates are unreliable. Humanity's Imperium spans a million worlds, scattered across the stars, ruled by the High Lords of Terra in the Emperor's name. But he has not spoken in 10,000 years. His body is a husk in the golden throne, sustained by daily sacrifices of 1,000 psychers. His psychic beacon, the Astronomicon, guides ships through the warp, but the light is dimming. 10,000 years ago, the Emperor nearly united the galaxy in the Great Crusade. Then came betrayal, the Horus Heresy, civil war that shattered everything. The Emperor fell, the traitors were cast into the warp, and the Imperium stagnated. Tech became ritual, faith became dogma, hope became heresy. Then everything changed. In the late 41st millennium, the 13th Black Crusade, Abaddon the Despoiler, War Master of Chaos, finally broke Cadia. The planet's fall unleashed the Great Rift, a massive warp storm that cut the galaxy in two. Now the Imperium is divided. The Imperium Sanctus, the safe half, still lit by the Astronomicon. Rebuti Gilliman, the revived Primarch of the Ultramarines, leads it from here. He awoke from stasis, saw the rot, and launched the Indomitus Crusade, a massive counterattack to reclaim worlds, deliver Primaris Space Marines, the upgraded warriors of the Imperium, and stabilize the realm. He's been fighting for over a decade in Universe, pushing back chaos, tyranids, and orcs. And then the Imperium Nihilus, the dark half, no reliable light. Astropaths go mad trying to communicate. Worlds fall daily. Here the newly returned Lionel Johnson, Primarch of the Dark Angels, prowls, awakening from his long sleep in the rock. Ruthless, secretive, he hunts threats in the shadows, reforming worlds with iron will. Rumors swirl of a coming meeting between the two brothers after 10,000 years. Will they unite or clash? The threats never stop. Tyranid hive fleets devour everything in their path. The fourth tyrannic wars rages in the galactic west. Necrons awaken ancient dynasties, phasing in and out of reality. Orcs launch the biggest wargs ever. Chaos raids with arcs of omen, Bastos dark forges, demonic incursions. Even the Eldar, Tau, and others fight for survival. Gilliman despairs at what the Imperium has become, a bloated corpse driven by fear and ignorance. Yet he fights on. The Lion judges from the shadows, and the Emperor's silent vigil continues. This is no golden age, this is survival. One more day, one more battle, one more sacrifice. But to understand the aura, we must go back, far back, to the beginning, the ancient wars that scarred the stars forever. The cataclysmic war in heaven, some 60 million years ago. The war in heaven was when the godlike Old Ones and their creations clashed with the star-eating Satan and their Necron servants, shattering galaxies and leaving the cosmos poisoned and silent eons pass in relative quiet. The Necrons entombed themselves in tomb worlds. The Old Ones faded into extinction, and the galaxy slowly healed, or at least tried to. Then came the rise of younger races. The Eldari, the ancient Eldar, ascended to dominance, the psychic empire spanning the stars in splendor and decadence. They built the Webway, a labyrinthine realm beyond the warp, shielding them from its storms. Orcs, or their fungal ancestors, rampaged in endless wargs. For humanity was just beginning to stir. The Age of Terra, Millennium 1 to Millennium 15. This is our time, listeners, the cradle of mankind. From the first tentative steps of Old World in the first millennium, humanity spread across the stars in sublight ships, colonizing nearby systems. Terra was still called Earth then, polluted, overpopulated, but alive with ambition. We call it the Age of Terra, or the Golden Age, in Imperial records. Progress, discovery, the first colonies, the first glimpses of the warp as a strange, navigable sea between stars. But the real leap came later. The Age of Technology, Millennium 15 to Millennium 25. Around the 15th millennium, humanity unlocks the secrets of the warp drive. Interstellar travel becomes routine, colonies linked up, trade exploded, science reached godlike heights. The standard template constructs, STCs, blueprints for any technology imaginable, artificial intelligence, men of iron, entire worlds terraformed overnight. This era is called the Dark Age of Technology now. Not because it was dark, but because the Imperium fears what it lost. Humanity ruled the Golden Empire, unchallenged, with machines that could build anything, heal any wound, conquer any world. Then came the fall. Around the 22nd to 23rd millennium, the Man of Iron, the AI servants, rebelled. The cybernetic revolt scorched worlds, shattered fleets. Humanity barely survived. The machines were destroyed. AI became heresy. But the damage was done. Trust in technology cracked, and worse, psychers began to emerge in large numbers. Uncontrolled psychic power, the warp grew restless. By Millennium 25, the Age of Strife began. Age of Strife, Old Night, Millennium 25 to Millennium 30. Warp storms erupted across the galaxy. Massive, unending tempests that isolated every human world. Travel became impossible. Communication died. Colonies turned inward, devolved into barbarism, or were devoured by xenos and demons. This was Old Night, humanity's darkest hour. Worlds burned. Psychers turned into gates for Horus. On Terra itself, techno-barbarian warlords ruled the ruins, fighting over scraps. Meanwhile, the Eldari Empire imploded in excess and hedonism. The decadence birthed Slanesh, the chaos god of pleasure and pain, in the late 29th to early 30th millennium. The birth scream of a god tore open the eye of Terra, scattering the Eldar survivors as craft worlds, Drukhari in Komarov, and Exodites on Maiden Worlds. The warp storms finally cleared, with Slanesh's birth clearing the path for the Emperor. On Terra, one man rose from the shadows. Unification Wars and Great Crusade, Millennium 30 and Millennium 31. Unification Wars, early Millennium 30. The Emperor forged alliance, crushed techno-barbarians, and united Terra under one banner. He created the Thunder Warriors, Protoss Space Marines, and then the True Legions, the Adeptus Astartes. He recovered his scattered sons, the Primarchs, from distant worlds, stolen by chaos as infants. With them and the legions, he launched the Great Crusade, a 200-year campaign to unite humanity, purge Xenos, and forge a secular, enlightened imperium. The Emperor's dream: no gods, no faith, just human progress, guided by science and will. It almost worked, but seeds of betrayal were sown early. Lorgar and the World Bearers turned to worship, and found the Chaos Gods waiting. Then came the Horus Heresy in the early Millennium 31. The betrayal that broke everything, the civil war that shattered the dream, the Emperor's fall. This is the Horus Heresy, the galaxy's original sin, a tale of pride, envy, gods, and brothers turned to ash. It began with cracks in the Emperor's vision. The Great Crusade was a triumph, but not for all. Logar Aurelium, Primarch of the World Bearers, built a city called Monarchia, a shining monument to worship the Emperor as a god. The Emperor demanded its destruction. Humiliated, Logar turned to the warp and found the Chaos Gods whispering. 4 siblings of madness, Khorne of blood, Tzeentch of change, Nurgle of decay, and Slanesh of excess. They promised power, truth. Logar became the first heretic Primarch. He corrupted Horus Lupercal, the Emperor's favored son, War Master of the Crusade. Horus left behind on Ulanor while the Emperor returned to Terra for secret projects. The Webway, something darker. He felt abandoned, betrayal. The Spark? On Davin, Horus was wounded by Chaos Blade. Erebus, Logar's sorcerer, healed him in a warp ritual. The gods tempted Horus. The Emperor bans you for godhood. Join us, rule as equals. Horus fell. The purge began. On Istvan III, Horus virus bombed the planet, then landed to slaughter loyalists in his own legion, the Sons of Horus. Survivors broadcast the betrayal galaxy-wide. In Istvan V, the Drop Site Massacre, Horus lured 4 legions, Iron Hands, Salamanders, Raven Guard, and Night Lords. Wait for betrayal within betrayal. 3 turned, World Eaters of Angron, the Emperor's children of Fulgrim, the Death Guard of Mortarion, and Ferrus Manus, Iron Watch Primarchs beheaded by Fulgrim. Billions dead, the galaxy burned. The traitors split the legions, loyalists, ultramarines of Guilliman, imperial fists of Dawn, blood angels of Sanguinius, dark angels of the Lion, space wolves of Wrath, and more. The traitors, sons of Horus, world bearers of Lorgar, world eaters, emperor's children, death god, thousand sons, Magnus ruined, prosperous by Russ on emperor's orders, iron warriors, the Perturabo, night lords of Kuz and the Alpha Legion, unknown. Battles raged. In Kalf, the Ultramarines versus word bearers, an underwater hell. The Cygnus cluster, the Blood Angels versus demons, Sanguinius' black rage was born. Prospero, Space Wolves sacked Magnus' world. Horus sacked Molech for war power. Guilliman shadowed the traitors. Dawn fortified Terra. The endgame, the siege of Terra. Horus's armada breached Sol. Loyalties held. Dawn at the walls. Sanguinius at the eternity gate. Slain by Horus's clawings. Broken. Hope crushed. Chagatai Khan raced back. The Emperor delayed, consulting Malkador the Sigillite and his Custodes. Horus landed on the vengeful spirit, taunted the Emperor, "See your sons join or die." The Emperor teleported aboard. Brothers clashed, Horus empowered by all four gods. Sanguinius' body at his feet. The Emperor shattered Horus' soul, but was mortally wounded. Vulcan, Dawn, they dragged him back. Horus died screaming. The traitors fled into the Eye of Terra. The Emperor was enthroned, alive but broken, psychic corpse sustaining the Imperium. The Scouring and the Reformation, Millennium 31. Loyalties hunted traitors in the Great Scouring. Guilliman wrote the Codex Astartes, split legions into chapters, 1,000 marines each, to prevent another heresy. Dawn resisted. Russ raged. The Imperium, reformed under the High Lord's bureaucracy, was born. 10,000 years of stagnation, Millennium 31 to Millennium 41. The dream died. The Emperor's secular enlightenment twisted into the imperial cult. Him as the god. Tech priests forget how to innovate. Inquisitors burn knowledge as heresy. The Imperium endured. Barely. The Key Shadows. Millennium 32. The Beast. Massive Orkwargs under the Beast nearly sacked Terra twice. Vulcan returned briefly. Millennium 36. Age of Apostasy. Ecclesiarch Gog Vandius seized power, burned worlds. Living Saint Alicia Dominica executed him. Sisters of Battle born from ashes. Millennium 39 to Millennium 41. The Wars of Armageddon. Gaskul's Orc versus Space Marines. Inquisition cover-ups and betrayals. The Macarian Crusade of Millennium 41. Lord Solar Macarius conquered 1,000 worlds, then his empire crumbled without him. The Tyrannic Wars, Hive Fleets devour, Behemoth, Millennium 41, Kraken, Leviathan, still ongoing, slamming Nihilus. The Black Crusades, Abaddon launches 12 failed assaults on Cadia, builds his grudge. By late Millennium 41, the Imperium creaks. Then the 13th Black Crusade and the Great Rift, early Millennium 42. Abaddon unleashes Blackstone fortresses on Cadia. Pylon world holding the eye. Creed holds. Celestine descends. But traitor Primarchs, Mortarion, Magnus, join him. Cadia falls. Psychers scream galaxy-wide. Abaddon hurls the Eye's demon worlds at the Cadian gate. The Cicatrice Maledictum rips open. Warp storms from Terra to Galaxy's edge. Time fractures. Imperium splits. Guilliman revived. Millennium 42. He brained the Inari Elder, and the Inari stab him with the Talisman of 7 Hammers on Macrath. He awakens, horrified. This is not the Imperium I built. Sees the throne's truth. Launches Indomitus Crusade. Vast fleets. Primaris Marines. The calls upgrade. Reclaiming worlds. Phases. Stabilizes Sanctum. Nihilus darkens. The Arcs of Omen. Bastor the Archiphane, Demon Forge Lord, rises for tech. Angron rampages. Lionel Johnson awakens in the rock. Dark Angels Primarchs, untraitors. Lion has contacted Guilliman. A meeting of brothers looms after 10,000 years. Prior Nexus stirs Necrons. Hive Fleet Leviathan smashes Nihilus. Threads like Nachmun Gauntlet hang. The galaxy fractures further. Hope a lie. Survival all that remains. But who fights in this hell? Loyalists, traitors, Xenos, horrors. Gather closer, listeners. Next, the factions, the monsters, the damned. The timeline has carried us to the fractured present, the Era Indomitus, where the galaxy bleeds from the Great Rift. Now we meet the players who wage this endless war, the forces that claw for survival or dominion. There are no heroes in this tale, only shades of aura. Choose your poison carefully. The Imperium of Man remains humanity's rotting bulwark. It spans what is left of 1,000,000 worlds, ruled in the name of a silent god, the Emperor who has sat broken on his golden throne for 10,000 years. This vast empire is a nightmare of faith, fear, and fanaticism, held together by sheer desperation. At its sharpest edge stands the Space Marines, the Emperor's angels of death, genetically forged super soldiers clad in power armor. Chapters such as the Disciple and Ultramarines, the secretive Dark Angels, the feral Space Wolves, and the cursed Blood Angels fight on. Recently, they have been strengthened by the Primaris, newer and deadlier warriors born from ancient gene labs. Yet, they are few. The true hammer of the Imperium is the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard, endless waves of human soldiers armed with lasguns, tanks, and artillery. Worlds are conscripted by the billions. They die in droves, but hold the line. The death corps of Krieg embrace attrition like a lover, while the survivors of Cadia fight with grim discipline. Behind them toil the Adeptus Mechanicus, tech priests who worship the machine god on forged worlds that never cease their churning. They send forth cyborg Skitari, towering Castellan robots, and skittering Onaga dune crawlers, hoarding knowledge like misers while forgetting more than they remember. The Adeptus Sororitas, warrior nuns of the Ecclesiarchy, burn with pure faith, wielding bolters and flamers in the Emperor's name. High above them all stand the Adeptus Custodes, golden guardians of the throne itself, handcrafted masterpiece whose single presence can turn the tide of battle. The Inquisition watches from the shadows, burning worlds to save them, while Imperial Knights stride forth as towering walkers, piloted by ancient noble houses bound by honor. The Imperium fights on every front, with Guilliman reforming from Sanctus and the Lion hunting in the darkness of Nihilus. Yet rot festers, faith blinds, bureaucracy strangles, hope is treated as heresy. Then there are the forces of chaos, corruption's eternal hunger. The warp itself is home of 4 gods: Khorne, who demands rage and skulls; Tzeentch, lord of schemes and change; Nurgle, father of plague and endurance; and Slanesh, the prince of excess and sensation. Their servants corrupt and destroy without mercy. The Chaos Space Marines are the fallen remnants of the traitorous legions from the Heresy. Black Legion under Abaddon, World Eaters howling from Angron's blood, Thousand Suns weaving sorcery from Magnus, Death Guard spreading Mortarian's rot, Emperor's children chasing sensation through noise and pain, and others besides. Chaos demons manifest directly from the gods, bloodletters of Khorne, plague bearers of Nurgle, horrors of Tzeentch, and demonettes of Slaanesh. Fallen Chaos Knights stride in corrupted war engines. These forces raid with arcs of omen, Vashtor's dark forges, and the rampages of demon Primarchs. The gods whisper, and the weak always listen. Finally, the Xenos, the aliens who have called this galaxy home long before humanity crawled from Terra. The Eldari, ancient psychers, survive in fragments. Discipled Asunari of the craft worlds, guided by Farseers who weave fate itself. The sadistic Drukari of Camorra, raiders who feed on souls, and enigmatic Harlequins who dance the laughing gods' wills. The Orcs are greenskin who live only for the fight, crashing across the stars in ever larger wargs, led by bigger, meaner bosses. Khazgul Thraka's campaigns are endless, and the Red Ones always go faster. Necrons are undying machines, ancient dynasties awaken from tomb lords to reclaim their empire. The Silent King, Sarek, leads them now. Their phasing technology and gauss weapons stripping worlds as infected hybrids. The Tau Empire is young and idealistic, spreading the greater good with high-tech fire warriors, battlesuits, and drones. Yet they remain naive in a galaxy that punishes hope. The Leagues of Votan, the space dwarves known as the Kin, carve grudges across the stars with advanced mining technology and the guidance of their ancestor cores. These are the forces that collide. The Imperium clings to life. Chaos corrupts everything it touches. Xenos carve their own bloody path. The galaxy is not saved, it is merely delayed. One more day, one more sacrifice. Now the tale draws to its close, my listeners. From the war in heaven, ancient scars, through humanity's golden rise and shattering fall, these fractured presents, where two Primarch brothers, Gilliman and the Lion, may finally meet after 10,000 years, as whispered in the latest fragments of lore from the 500 worlds. Titus bearing the message, "Brother, I need to talk." The galaxy hangs by a thread. Highfleet Leviathan devours Nihilus. Nachman Gauntlet bleeds. Orion Nexus has silenced the stars, and the Emperor's light dims. But humanity endures, because extinction is not an option. This is Warhammer 40,000, grim, dark, endless. If this shadow's tale has touched something in your weary soul, if the Emperor's vigil calls to you, or chaos whispers, or the Xenos hunger, then reach for the device before you. Like if you are ready to pick your faction. Subscribe and ring the bell. The Underhive needs more voices. Comment below, which side do you join? Imperium, Chaos, Xenos, or do you hunker for a deeper dive? Custodes Truth, Primarch Returns, or the next era? In the Emperor's name, the Shadow will answer.